What would you do if you knew this place? If you'd hunted here when you were younger? If you knew every holler and every old logging road? Here in Appalachia, we've lost more than we've won over the years. I, for one, however, ain't willing to give up yet. Not until they put me in the ground, or we get our heads out of the mud and decide that the coal should stay in it.
Before, I mean, you could go out and find a job anywhere in the coal mines. The jobs are slim now. If you got one, you better do your best to try to run coal and be safe and keep it.
The fact of the matter is, they poison people on a daily basis. People get sick and people die from their coal mining operations, and they don't seem to care.
I think people, they want coal back in this area, bad. We should have more businesses and stuff like that on our area and not depended solely on coal, and that's what's happened.
I'm thinking about the miners all over this country. We're going to put the miners back to work. We're going to put the miners back to work.
I mean, they perpetuate these lies. This is still a coal field in this area. Mountaintop removal does nothing but destroys our air, our water, and our communities.
But think about what it must mean to be born and live with mountaintop removal every minute of every day of your life. The coal industry is never going to leave Appalachia until they have tormented and blasted and dug and gouged and poisoned the last lump of coal out of these ancient hills. We've got an entire generation here who knows nothing but destruction. One of the most eloquent spokesmen for that generation is here with us today. Junior Walk, everybody.
Well, thank you, Bob. And thank all y'all for coming out here today. Like you said, my name is Junior Walk. I'm 26 years old, and I was born and raised in a small coal camp called Eunice. My entire young life I spent going up in the woods there, right in front of my house, with my grandpa, with my dad, learning how to hunt, learning how to live off the land, learning how to dig ginseng. All these good things that young Appalachian people should still be learning today. They've got that whole mountain range permitted to be completely destroyed. This place that I have enjoyed being my whole life, because that's what it is. Coal River Mountain is my home. I don't feel at home anywhere else. And we're going to stop them. We're going to stop them from taking that up there one way or another.
Coal River Mountain is the last fairly intact mountain range in the entire Coal River watershed. The rest of them have had a fairly massive amount of mining done. I work for a nonprofit here, Coal River Mountain Watch, and we do anti-surface mining work. And so what that means is we try to shut down strip mines and be a thorn in the side to the coal companies any chance we can get. I was the first person in my family to graduate high school, let alone have any inkling of an idea how to go about applying for financial aid or scholarships or anything like that. And so I was stuck. I was stuck here. There was no way I was going to get to go to college. Then a friend of the family offered me a position as a security guard on a strip mine, and so I took the job. But as a security guard, I was sitting right in the middle of that mine site watching that big machinery tear down that mountain. I didn't want to be part of that. I felt like I had blood on my hands. And so that's when I started coming around Coal River Mountain Watch and trying to find out what I could do to help.
What would you do if your kin people built a cabin back in there long ago where that machinery now sits? Would you trade off the places you'd once roamed, or the places your grandparents would take you and tell stories?
Oh, somebody cleaned up in here a little bit.
What if they had a little graveyard up on what used to be the top of that ridge? It's an uphill battle, folks, but it's one we can never shy away from.
We're good. That's the parking area. we're looking all the way across the Coal River Valley. But from right here, oftentimes, they've got guards on the site. So usually when I'm coming back through, I like to stop right here and just take a peek over there and see if I see any trucks or anything. And that way I kind of know what to expect when I get out on the site.
And you talk down on coal, then you're going to make a lot of people mad. I like Junior as a young man. I don't agree with what some of the stuff he does. You know, he thinks coal should be abandoned. I don't agree with that. Coal built these communities, and it has. It's built this community in this area. You know, my wife works for Coal River Mountain Watch, an environmental group, and there's people who hates her just because of where she works. And now myself, here's where I straddle the fence. I don't believe anybody has a right to go in, take that mountain and get what they want off of that mountain and push the refuge over in these valleys. I just think it's dead wrong.
And you know what's the damnedest thing? I haven't seen a single no trespassing sign yet.
A lot of the times I'm getting on my four-wheeler and heading up into the mountains to monitor, you know, new and upcoming mine sites. We really try to keep an eye on what's going on with their mining, because we can cost them a lot of money in environmental violations if we catch them doing the wrong things. You know, they don't have all the money in the world like they used to. You know, they can't afford all those environmental violations. So it wouldn't take a whole lot to shut these people down.
It's actually kind of funny. I've never felt more like a spy in my life. This is our trail camera. So we're constantly monitoring them up here with this thing. This thing comes in really handy. So I've got 9 days left on these batteries right here. It's taking a picture every minute.
Would you try to stand up to this, to an industry with a century worth of political power, with any and every elected official snug neatly in their front pocket?
My name is Junior Walt. I'm 23 years old, born and raised Coal River Valley, border of Raleigh, Boone County, southern West Virginia. And we're here today, you know, me and a couple of my good friends, blocking the hell out of the one road in, one road out, the corporate headquarters of Alpha Natural Resources.
I don't feel that chaining ourselves together and standing in front of a road, you know, it doesn't accomplish anything other than make hard feelings for people in the community. Me personally, I could care less for the boy.
People around here don't really like me. I mean, I've been a fairly outspoken opponent of the coal industry for a number of years now. And I don't pull my punches. You know, and I've had people threaten my life. I've had people threaten my family. If you're making waves and bucking against something that's making somebody a big fat paycheck, they're not gonna be too happy about it. I figured that one out firsthand. You know, I believe that we should stop mining coal, period, 100%, all of it, no matter what. And I don't back down on those opinions, no matter who I'm talking to or what's going on.
I mean, the boy doesn't realize there's going to be a time in his life that he's not going to have a camera around to protect him. He'll have to answer for everything he's done in this community eventually. And I have a feeling it's not going to be good for him.
I mean, the thing is, I stay armed, and everybody around here knows that. And so they know that they can only do so much to me.
So yeah, what we're looking at over there is the Middle Ridge Surface Mine Permit. It's one of the remaining active surface mining operations in our area, and it's right smack dab in the middle of Coal River Mountain, this beautiful, biologically diverse, temperate rainforest. I mean, it's honestly, like, hunting and self-reliance is just a big part of the culture here. You know, and the coal industry has done what they could to kind of stomp out that culture of self-reliance over the past, 150 years. You know, beginning with the coal company store and coal camps and things of that nature, trying to make people more reliant on the coal company and less reliant upon themselves and less reliant upon nature to survive. It has a huge impact. I mean, you could tell that's like a lot of acreage of once huntable, pristine forest that is no longer, you can't hunt there. There's not going to be anything there to hunt.
any wildlife or anything that once lived there no longer does. And anybody who has ever spent time in the woods, and anybody who's got half of a conscience, if you've got those two things and you're working out on a strip like that, it's got to be hell on you. Because you got to know that's wrong. I mean, there's not a lot of gray area in this for me personally. There's right and there's wrong, and that's wrong out there. I mean, who you blame or whatever, that don't really matter to me, because like I said, there's plenty of blame to go around.
What would happen if coal disappeared? There would be, people would lose hope. It's a very fascinating industry. I wish everybody knew how great it was. We're a trade association that represents the coal-producing industry here in West Virginia. We represent the companies, we have member companies who produce probably about 85 to 90% of the coal in West Virginia, trying to make people understand how important coal not only has been to their life, but how important it is going forward.
Bill Rainey doesn't really do anything in this community that I'm aware of. I mean, as far as I'm aware, he's the president of the West Virginia Coal Association, which means he's like #1 main lobbyist for the coal industry here in West Virginia.
Well, it's been under an absolute assault since under the Obama administration. It absolutely has. And he said that going in, that he was going to bankrupt the coal industry and the coal burning utilities, and he pretty much has.
The coal industry likes to put out all this propaganda of like how many jobs that they provide, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. While, if you look at the numbers, from the mid-1980s till now, when, since they developed this type of new large-scale surface mining that they've been implementing over the past, 30 years, the job numbers here in southern West Virginia have been on a steady decline. It has nothing to do with environmental regulations or anything like that. It's mechanization.
West Virginia Coal Association just endorsed me.
Trump comes in and talks with us and tells us and meets with other companies and the coal miners and says, I'm going to put you back to work because I understand that everything that has deterred and has affected your employment over the last 8 years is administrative. He related to our people, he understood the problems, and I truly believe that we right now have a lot of hope and we have a lot of enthusiasm since the election because we feel like there is a great deal of hope out there.
I mean, I think that the whole I'm going to bring coal mine jobs back to West Virginia is just one of those empty campaign promises that we're not going to see him deliver on. I get asked that question a lot about what comes next. What's the next big economy for West Virginia? How are people around here going to make a living? Honestly, I do not care.
When people come together, solutions are there. We wanted to show that we could offset the impact of coal. We're not going to just push a button and instantly go to renewables around the planet. And so our objective was through reforestation, very low cost, it's globally deployable, would be bundled with the use of coal to offset its emissions. And ERP is really creating coal fuels that offset carbon dioxide.
Each one of those tubes has explosives in it, and they'll be able to blow that entire knob apart, which will create the spoil or the fill they need to grade it, to get everything back to the original grade.
Our second phase is, we put grasses on to really prevent erosion, but then we want to reforest native hardwoods so that it's really back to its original setting.
But again, these high walls here, this is what a high wall is. They've mined all the coal that was next to it. But when you look over here, those were high walls themselves. And so all of that has been, regraded and contoured, putting the slope back into it, the natural slope. And there's probably about 24 species of hardwood trees that will be reforested.
Unfortunately, we have far less trees today than the planet was designed to have. So reforestation in West Virginia, it puts people back to work. It's part of a transition economy, a restoration economy. Coal as a fuel source for power generation today is the most expensive source that we have. Coal is down over the last 2 years, 35% plus or minus. So it's very safe to assume that, a third of the people that were employed 3 years ago are no longer employed.
The decline in the coal industry and the war on coal is what I guess put us here. Myself, I'm 50 years old with right at 30 years mining, and I got to do something for a few more years, so who knows where I'll land. Just stay here and hope for the best. It's about the only choice you got.
When you think about jobs, it's not just the direct jobs at the mine, but I mean the entire communities, entire counties were dependent upon the coal industry, all of the spin-off businesses.
The coal industry has gone down, but they was wanting to close the school down. We as a community want to keep our school. That's the heart of our town is our school. It's 100 years old. It's a landmark building. This is our life. We have no grocery stores now. When you take what we got left away, what's that going to leave? More people's going to be gone. We don't want that.
I really think that what's going on here in southern West Virginia, not just with the environmental problems we have and everything else, but the whole cultural problem here of people being treated like second-class citizens. It's a microcosm of what's going on around the rest of the country. My entire adult life, for the most part, has been spent trying to stop these coal companies. But I realize the big picture is the people who have, the people with power, the people with money. They're the ones who control everything, and they're the ones who reap the benefits from all of these destructive practices, not only here, but all around the country. And I think that those people are the enemy. Not only to me, not only to my community, but to every other poor and impoverished community around the United States.
You couldn't imagine the amount of wildlife habitat, of rare and endangered plants, nature, just beautiful, untouched, pristine beauty that was right there at one time. Now you notice there's no soil. There's nothing. It's barren rock. And they want to do that to this whole mountain, everywhere that we've been today. And I hope 2 years from now, I'm not looking from over there somewhere saying 2 years ago I stood right there and then this right here is a strip. Anything at all in the world that I can do to avoid that situation, I'm going to do it. Whatever it takes to shut them down and stop them where they go, keep them from taking one more square mile. I'm going to do it.
Ain't gonna work on massive farm no more. Ain't gonna work on massive farm no more. City hands you a nickel, hands you down. Life is in his hands when you get down in that mine. He got safety violations, good Lord. Oh, ain't gonna work, say it's over. Ain't gonna buy Massey Liza no more.